And we're back on Shardlight Radio. I'm your host, Mr. Ben, and today I want to talk about the LGS Pack that was announced, if not today, very recently. It popped up in my feed early this morning. So what this is a pack that is going to be available on February 1st for licensed game stores that are running tournaments in Ares. If your store has events but doesn't use the Ares system, I guess they're not able to purchase that. Exactly how the Argent Saga team is going to enforce that, I'm not sure. My suspicion is that there's probably a login that you have to use to order from them, and this pack will just not be available if your game store hasn't been using Ares. Not totally clear on that. The suggested retail is $4 per pack, and this pack has some really interesting cards in it. One of the cards I want to talk about first is that this pack has, yet again, another preview card for a different expansion. That preview card is called Gloom Necrolord, and because it's a full art card, I can't really get a gauge on what its actual rarity is. Given how preview style cards have worked before, my guess is that it's a rare. So if you pick up playset worth of these packs, you will have some number of rares in your set 3 Ascension packs that will contain cards that you already have full art versions of. Not a huge deal if it's just the one card, but again, this preview card thing, I mean, I get what they're trying to do. You know, you get some hype for Ascension, but unfortunately, if I have a playset of a card, I'm significantly less excited when I open it in a random booster pack, and I don't know how you fix that. Obviously, the full art is cool, and then the rare foiling when you get the booster pack is a different kind of cool, so perhaps having those different versions appeals to different people, but to me, I just go, man, I wish this pack contained something other than this rare card. Next, I want to talk about the other full art cards that aren't new cards that are in this pack. It is all of the Omega Magics are being reprinted, as well as all of the special crystals. So these will be full art versions of the Hollowed Crystal, the Zephyr Crystal, Waverin, Cryptic, and Nightmare, I think, are all the crystal names. But these are the crystals that originally were rares in Betrayal, and now they're getting full art non-foil versions in this LGS pack for a really reasonable $4 a pack. By the way, I kind of glossed over that previously, but that should not be passed over. This is a pack containing 14 cards for $4. That's pretty good. There's also going to be a copy of Guiding Winds and Treat, which are full art for those 2 cards, which it's a little weird to me that they do this run of the Omega Magics and the run of the crystals and then just throw in Guiding Winds, Treat, and then the Necrolord is another dark card. So there's kind of an imbalance as far as how these cards are spread across the various factions. Not a big deal. That's just my OCD brain talking. The other card that is included is a new Water Spirit, which has an affinity 10, which is pretty fantastic. I have long felt like affinity 10 cards like Buckeye should be in circulation, and this is Tux, the Emperor Spirit. So this dude looks like a glowy water penguin in the art, and he's throwing a ball for Buckeye maybe to chase after, which is kind of cool. I really like the card art on this, and this card's ability is kind of bonkers. So when a unit you control destroys a card, you may draw a card, then discard a card. That's pretty good. I've always been a fan of card cycling, and to be able to do that in response to destroying a tower feels like that could work out well. Now, how this power works, I assume that if I hit a Nightmare tower, the tower effect happens, then this response power triggers because the card destroys, and instantly, without using the Q, whatever that tower was supposed to... So I might want to check myself on the timing of that, but I believe that's how it would work. So the tower would resolve, then you would get to use Tux's power. The other thing about Tux is his Soul Burst is bringing a whole bunch of new ideas to the table. So first of all, his Soul Burst requires an additional payment. You have to pay 3 on top of flipping your spirit face down. I do not think any other Soul Burst on any other spirit has required additional payment. And this is pretty strong. Stun all units your opponent controls. So stun is a new mechanic that's being brought into the game, possibly with Ascension, I guess. Maybe this is the first that we'll see of it, and then it'll be a more widespread mechanic in Ascension. But it makes it so that a card is completely useless until the end of its next turn. It cannot attack, it cannot block, it cannot use activated abilities, and it lasts for the duration of your turn, through the player's next turn, and that's kind of a big deal. You soul burst this guy, and then you can just attack with impunity, and there's really nothing your opponent can do to respond to it other than play spells from hand. But the board, and if their board is full and you do this, well, now the player's next turn, they can't even recruit any characters. They're kind of a sitting duck for a couple of turns. That's exceptionally strong. That feels very strong. And how widespread the stun mechanic is going to be. So what I think is really interesting here is by making a unit useless but not removing it from the board, that opens up your ability to sort of punish your opponent for winning the game. If I've got really solid board control and my board is full of menacing units, and then all of a sudden they can't do anything at all, and I have to basically take 2 turns off, that is wildly devastating. That could absolutely swing a game. And while soul burst effects on the spirits in the past have been good, they are not game-winning, game-deciding powers, whereas Tux, this hilarious Emperor Penguin spirit, is. This could be your out. This could be your win condition. You get yourself set up, you make sure nothing your opponent does as far as board matters for the rest of this turn, get a couple attacks in, they can't do anything their next turn, and then you get another chance to kind of come at them. So this guy combined with Eccentric Visitor and do this couple turns in a row, surely there's going to be a way that you can chain Tux over and over again. As a Water fan, I think Water's probably my favorite faction. This card seems great. I like the idea of being able to splash 10 Water cards into other decks, and this spirit seems like it's really going to have a huge impact on the game. Now, that being said, we're supposed to get a whole suite of new spirits sometime, I believe, after set 3. And if this is kind of a preview of the overall power level of those spirits, now this guy could be a one-off. This could be like Buckeye, where he came out and he wasn't really part of a specific set, and he kind of does his own thing, and it exists out there as an alternate spirit for light. This guy could kind of exist in that same place for water, and this might not actually be tied to the next wave of spirits. So this might or might not be an indicator of the kind of power level of the new spirits. I do think it stands to reason that the new spirits we're going to see here soon will have to, if not directly power creep over the old spirits, they will have to give us a reason to want to go out and buy these intro decks. Again, particularly for the established players, if the cards that are in them are staple cards like they were with the last set of introductory decks, then potentially we'd want to buy it just for the cards. But if I'm in a position where there aren't a lot of cards in those pre-constructed decks that I need for my collection or for other decks to play with, and the only reason I'm buying them for the spirits, those spirits better be baller to entice that kind of purchase. I mean, I would assume that new intro decks will be similar to what the previous intro decks cost. So this LGS pack seems pretty neat. It definitely is a little bit of a negative for anyone who is holding cards with the intent of being able to resell them with some kind of a profit. So anybody who's counting on the secondary market, your Omega Magic Yammies, well, all the Omega Magics are going to decline in price. I think having these readily available, completely reasonably priced kits, there's just no reason to pay $30 for a non-full art Omega Magic Yami if you can pay $12 and get a playset by buying 3 of these LGS packs. So that's good for budget players. That's bad for a store that is sitting on some of this product that's trying to sell these singles out. And the rate at which these cards are getting reprinted, particularly powerful, important cards are getting reprinted, while I think it's good to saturate, well, maybe that's the wrong word. I think it's good to provide players lots of different ways to get the cards that they want, even if it's not the exact full art foil bling version of the card, to give players access to these cards so that way they can be more competitive in their local scene, and sort of that kind of sinks the hook in and tugs people to the next event. Well, man, I can compete here. Maybe I can compete at the next level up. I think that's good, but I do think on some level, the people who get into these kind of games with the interest in being able to resell product, it is maybe dangerous to piss off that crowd. If a local game store sees that opening a box of Betrayal and the singles that they want to sell, it didn't work out financially, they're that much less likely to carry singles in the future. That means players aren't going to have that option available. We can't act like the secondary market doesn't exist, or that it doesn't play an important role in making sure that the game thrives. I do think that's important. I also think maybe the reprints are getting a little out of control lately. Now, the thing I like about this is that this pack targets the game stores. If you want this, you have to get it through a game store, or I guess on the secondary market. I think that's a real positive idea, and it's kind of a reward for the stores that are using the tournament software that ARG wants you to use. So I like the idea of what they're doing here. I like that this is the way they're choosing to give us a preview card, because it's cheaper than sticking these preview cards into the expansion packs. So there's a lot of positives to work with here. I didn't need to see all the crystals again. I didn't need to see all the Omega Magics again. And if you're holding the box of Betrayal, sell it now, because there isn't much left in that set. After the Omega Magics drop in price, I have a feeling sealed boxes of Betrayal are also going to drop in price, because the likelihood of opening that up and getting some kind of big money cards, every time they do more reprints, that likelihood just goes down a little bit. So I think this is a really cool idea. Maybe not the most investor-friendly move, but I think it's healthy to draw people into the stores to get this kind of specialized product, and that it maybe lessens the sting for a store whose singles maybe aren't going to be worth as much as they once were. So, till next time, go win some games.